Most founders are stuck in sales prison. They grind 40 plus hours a week on lead gen, content, and outreach and still can't get results. They jump between every AI software, every agency offering email outreach, LinkedIn messages, and still just keep burning money in their pockets every day. I was the same way until I built the 5-hour sales system. Now I book 25 qualified calls a month, only working 5 hours a week on sales. Look, I've almost been in business for 3 years now, and like every founder, I was doing everything myself. Sales call, lead gen, follow-ups, delivery. I was basically a full-time salesperson that happened to run a business at the same time. But in the last 5 months, I managed to triple my business compared to the last 2.5 years. And the breakthrough wasn't me doing more outreach or more hustle. It was me building a system that was repeatable and easy to do in less than 5 hours. So what I'm about to share is my complete 5-hour sales system. The exact 5 processes and how they work together and how that helps me book 20 plus qualified calls every single month. This is the technical breakdown of how the system actually works. Okay, so before we go into the 5-hour sales system, what we want to go through first of all is why the traditional sales approaches fail right now. And this is the founder's trap that we're seeing people in. So what a lot of people get into the habit of is they think that most think sales systems and tools are the fundamental things that are going to help them. They think all these new flashy AI softwares, all this new email marketing softwares are going to get the job done. But unfortunately, that doesn't do it. You need the fundamentals behind you to actually get the results. And a lot of the time, they're still doing all the work and nothing sustainable. So they're grafting out a lot of hours. They're not actually getting a lot of results. And unfortunately, they don't have any documentations of being able to get this onto someone else in the future. So they're always stuck in the same trap. And the growth relies on the founder time and energy constantly. Without them grafting and going out doing business, the business stalls. So normally they're just getting by with a few referrals here, there, and everywhere. And unfortunately, the business just does not grow and it feels really, really stuck in the ruts. And alongside that, sales stop when you get when you start delivering. So you get busy and you start chasing all these shiny objects. So you get a client, you may have been charging them less than what you should be. Unfortunately, that means that you're growing internally and work-wise, but your output drops completely. So again, every single month, you're just back to square one, trying to get past that 10, 20, 30 grand mark and really stuck in the weeds. And outreach stays limited, sporadic, and short-term, meaning when you get a free hour, you just start to throw out DMs or get your AI bot to start doing it. And then when someone actually responds, you take 2 or 3 days to actually get results. And we all know that that's not going to cut it. So the real problem, is that you're not building a system. Basically, you're just running a sales job. You're literally just going out there and just trying to get whatever can come near you. And you're not building something that's fundamentally building you out of that business, or that side of the business. And leads are cold and trust isn't built yet. So what this means is that no one knows who you are. You're going out and reaching out to people. You're probably doing it a little bit more sporadic. And when you're starting these conversations, it's very cold because no one trusts or likes you yet because they don't know your content or they don't know your brand. And this do-it-yourself first mentality, it costs people massive pain and revenue. I speak to a lot of people, and again, I speak from personal experience. I was that person when I was a salesperson. I thought I could do everything myself until I got years in, went, holy crap, I actually need help. I don't know everything and I'm stuck wasting so much time, hundreds of thousands of pounds if I'm not able to get the revenue now that I could have, okay? And this is a big one for me. I kept copying big brands that doesn't work without an established audience. So when I was a salesperson, I worked for a company on a really big brand, and that allowed me to go out and market, and people would actually inquire because we were working with all these big influencers or big companies. And that allowed some credibility straight away. Conversations were much easier. Then when I started my own business, I was like, whoa, no one was responding to me. All my email rates were wrong. All my DMs were not getting responded to. I was stuck on a real island because I was trying to be the blue chip company that I used to be in, and that actually did not work as well. And every sales hour equals a lost time and strategy, delivery, and growth. So you're trying to do it the hard way, which means that you're actually then results become worse as well. And again, you're stuck in this massive rut. And the business depends on you entirely as that salesperson. Like I said, you go on holiday, the business stops. Unfortunately, you probably can't go on holiday at this point because you literally go into the negative, and that's not a good place to be. And scaling, literally, the only option is more hours and not better systems. So you're not spending the hours on building a system because you don't really have the time because you're trying to deliver and do the sales. And you just keep going on this vicious cycle, and you really, really beats you down, and a lot of people burn out, okay? So this is what most people miss. Okay, the goal isn't efficiency. It's a system that runs sales without you, okay? And ideally, we want to get this to 5 hours max. And this is what the 5-hour sales system is going to do. Now, founders confuse activity results. time of value. Now, just because you go out and message 20 people, you probably feel some self of pride that I've done my DMs today, I don't have to, maybe do it tomorrow or whatever comes to your mind. Unfortunately, what you're doing is you're doing sporadic behavior that doesn't actually get consistent results. And this is why you need to have this documented and getting everything down on what's actually working and what's going on. If you just do 10 or 20 sales calls and you don't know why people are buying or why people are not buying, unfortunately, you don't have a system or a business per se. You're just sporadically cracking on with things, and this is not going to cut it, okay? And a real system books qualified calls whether you're working or on holiday. The business should not stop if you can't actually respond to someone or if you are doing delivery or growing the business. It has to be systemized so you can step away and scale. Without that, you're literally in a sales job or just in another job 9 to 5, and that is not what you want to be. This is why you start your own business. The risk needs to beat the reward. And 80% of the sales work should be done before the call even starts. This is a massive one, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way. Your offer needs to be dialed in so that when you're actually outreaching to people, having a conversation and getting on the sales call, that actually pre-bought by the time you finish that conversation, because when you then deliver your offer, it just closes that last little bit because it makes total sense to them. You're solving a massive pain of theirs, and this is what it needs to be doing, okay? Rather than pitching all the options that you're doing, okay? It needs to be solely focused on the outcomes and make sense and be simple. So this is why I built the 5-hour sales system, okay? The whole purpose of this and what I was struggling with was getting qualified leads. So I needed to build a system where I'm running multiple different businesses and doing certain different things like an acquisition and all this other stuff. I need to build a system in place where I could get 5 to 10 qualified leads with only me spending 5 hours a week on that sales journey, okay? So the whole purpose of this, okay, is getting to the desired place the founders want to be. This is where you want to be. You do not want to be working 40 hours a week doing sales, okay? It doesn't work because you've got so much going on. So you build a system where content plus the offer do 80% of the selling before the call actually happens. And content is strategic, solves pain points, and shows expertise in pre-qualified prospects. And you can do this in less than 1 hour a week, okay? Alongside that, each post compounds over time. So you're building trust and calls, start to be warm. People actually know you, they trust you, and they recognize what you're doing in the space. And this allows the calls to feel more natural rather than them being resistant. And we have all been in that situation where it feels like you're trying to pitch to a black wall. It needs to be 80% done already, okay? And we need then to close it on the last little bit. And we pair this with a repeatable DM strategy, which consistently books calls, and there's no hard selling. You do not need to be hard selling anyone in 2025, okay? When you have that offer correct, you have the structure done, and you're actually messaging like a human, the conversations will still feel great, okay? And if the offer actually solves their problem, then it feels very natural. And this results in a 5-hour week system booking 10 or 5 to 10 qualified, that's some key, qualified sales calls each week for your business, okay? So the first thing that we have to do to make sure that you can get your business scaling and get the 5-hour sales system working for yourself is we need to identify who your actual best client is, okay? And this is critical. If you don't know who it is that you're actually going to be or should be working with, then you're just going to be throwing darts into the dark, okay? And unfortunately, you're just going to be talking to everyone and not getting on a call with anyone. And that's not where you want to be, okay? So it comes to a simple process. Who do you help, okay? And this is called your ICP, your ideal client profile, okay? So without this being clearly defined, the system is defective. It breaks. It doesn't work. Like I said, throwing darts into the dark. Now, what we want to get down to, we want to get so hyper specific into this point. We want to know exactly everything about them. We want to know about their age. We want to know about what they're actually doing day to day, what they like, what they dislike. What are their pains? What are they struggling to do? What are their common fears that they think about out loud, okay? What are their desired outcome? Where do they want to be in the next 6 to 12 months or 90 days if your service is on that time frame? We want to go as deep as possible. The more specific we get and the closer the language is to what they would say, then the more it's going to resonate with them. And that is the juice. This is where everything is built on. If we get this wrong or we don't know this specifically, then the next things are going to just break, okay? Like I said, it's going to be a defective system. We don't want a defective system. We want this working because it can work really well. So get clear on who they are and what they actually want, okay? Very, very important. Alongside that, spot the red flags of the clients you don't want to work with. You create a business so you can choose who you work with. That's so important. Don't work with people that you don't want to work with, okay? Understand what actually your product does or your service does and what outcomes they get. and then package that around people that, find out the people that aren't going to fit that. And that could be a type of attitude. It could be a type of company size. It's specific to every single person, okay? But really dial into this and don't be afraid to go really niche on it, because the more niche you are, then the more specific you can get when you do your messaging, okay? And look at where you've already had wins, okay? So if you've got some clients right now, maybe you're doing different industries, look at the results that you've got and see actually who was the better client to work with and why. And then if you want to specifically go on to them, then fantastic. You've got a case study as well here, so you can really speak to your ICP. So have a look at that. Don't overestimate it. Don't just randomly start going and helping some random company when you've got no experience in there. Make sure you actually know what you're doing, okay? And then listen to their exact words, not the jargon. So get call recordings of clients or random people you've spoken to or whatever, okay? Make sure you're doing this and actually hear what they're saying to you. You're obviously assuming what they think, but if you can get the exact words or the exact struggles that they are having, then it's most likely that other people are struggling with this as well. So you can get ChatGPT, download all the transcripts and put it in here, and then what you can see is what their actual pain points is, and obviously then you can really tailor your offer around this as well. And then refine this over time based on real results, okay? This isn't I do it once and then it's done. You can do this from day one, look at it day 2, look at it in month 3, and then year 3. You need to always keep refining it, because the more data you have, you can keep narrowing this down so that you're actually specifically saying the words that 85% of them say, okay? So when you're actually doing your messaging, it is that specific that you're just speaking to them. When they see your content or when you're talking to them, it just hits a nerve, like, bang, this person understands me, they trust me, they get it. That's what we want to be, okay? So once we've got the ICP dialed in, what we need to then be working on is we need to get the offer and the authority starting to come, okay? So it's all good and well to have a good ICP, but if we don't have that offer like we talked about, then unfortunately you're selling something to someone that doesn't actually want it. And the problem with that is, well, you're not going to get far. So you could do all the best messaging, you could actually understand what their problems are, but if the offer doesn't actually stack up with that, you're going to be pitching and you're going to get a really big rake up reality of like, oh wow, no one's wanting to buy, okay? So like we talked about at the start, the offer should do 80% of the heavy lifting, okay? Calls feel like confirmations, not hard sells. It feels like just natural, okay? You understand them, they understand you, and then once you're delivering the offer, it's a no-brainer for them because you know what their problems are. You've obviously identified them as they fit your ICP, so you should already know that they actually are a client that you can help. And then the last 20% is just either convincing them. When I like to say convincing, it's getting them over the line, so getting over their fears that they can't buy, or tailoring it a little bit more to them. This should be the only option, okay? And obviously there's money options and all that stuff, but that's, again, helping them get to the next place, okay? So once that offer is defined, okay, and the main way to do the offer is just simplifying it. The more simple the offer is, the better. So I was guilty for this, where I was trying to do this X and Y and Z offer within one, and it was like, if you do this, then you get X result. It's overcomplicated. It doesn't need to be that detailed. It should just be a simple, basic, like, I help founders do X. So for me, it's I help founders get 5 to 10 additional sales calls each month with my 5-hour sales system and only spend 1 hour a day, okay, doing so. So it's simple. And then the way we break that down is by doing this with an outcome, this with an outcome, this with an outcome, this with an outcome. What a lot of people get stuck into is selling the actual process. So I will do this DM strategy for you and this is what you'll be able to do. But there's no then outcome at the end of it to say, because this is going to help you get a 30% increase response rate, which is going to help you book another 5 to 10 sales calls. That's what the people care about. They actually care about where they're going to go, okay? And when you package it in like a transformation, which is a really good tip, then what ends up happening is they can see the desired result in a certain period of time, where a lot of people do like a monthly retainer, where a lot of people would actually see, let's say $10,000 over 90 days as cheaper than $2,000 a month, okay? It's a weird psychology that humans have. There's a start to end point of when they're going to get an actual outcome compared to this ongoing kind of cost, okay? And that's something that is very important when you're packaging your deal to keep considered, okay? So like I said, give it a time frame. If you don't think you can have a time frame, just go back to see what actual client results you've been getting and see when they got that, and then actually package that into the offer so you can actually be confident. And by the way, make sure that you can actually deliver that. Don't just say these random time frames that you actually can't deliver, because then you're just going to get bad reviews, bad clients, and that's not going to help you in the long run. It's actually going to damage you, okay? And you want to position it so your profile is completely dialed in to what you're doing, okay? And that's very important. So this is why we have to reverse engineer. You got your ICP, you know you're targeting, you got the offer, you know what you're offering. From there, what we need to make sure is that when you're going online, for example, LinkedIn, your profile is completely matching who your ICP is going to, resonate with. Okay. So very simply put, okay, if we look at this, for example, so this is my profile right now. So as you can see, turn inconsistent lead flow into 20-40 extra sales calls per month. This is my banner. So you get 3 to 5 more calls booked, 2 to 5 clients signed weekly, and 40 hours freed up monthly, okay? So they're the key things that my offer will do for someone, and I'm stating that in the banner. And then what you can see in here is you got the founder, you got like the little catchphrase, this is what someone's gonna see. And what also, when you comment on people's posts, this is the first thing, in your comment, this is what they see as well on LinkedIn. So the first thing they see is founders book 5 to 10 extra sales calls. So if they want to click on my profile, they can read that even more so. So like I said, founders book 5 to 10 extra qualified sales calls every week in just 1 hour per day using my 5-hour sales system. Clear, defined, okay? And then in my about section, I'm literally hammering on my ICP over here, okay? And what I've highlighted is the certain parts that resonate with this part here, okay? So you've got the 90 days, that's what time frame it is to get results for myself, to get the 5 to 10 qualified leads. So I've got the 90 days here, which again is specifically on the time. And then what I've got here is the 1, 2, 3 step process of how I'm doing that. So that is again basically listing the outcomes in the process. So you can see every time I list a process, I'm showing like prospects are showing up, knowing who you are and why they should be listening to you. Okay. That's like one example. And then the second one, appointment setter who fuels your system. So this then takes away the time of you having to do the work. So you want to be really specific in this, not to overzealous, but like you want to make sure that this profile, when they land, when they read this, again, they know who you are. And when you're DMing them, especially if they come onto this, they already know a lot about you already. So conversations feel very natural. By the way, if you're a founder under 20 grand right now and you're wanting to scale up your LinkedIn and also get 5 to 10 additional qualified sales calls, then there's going to be a link in my bio. Just fill that out, that questionnaire, and also you can book in a call with me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about how we can actually do this for you and help you scale your business rapidly, like I have. So once we got the ICP, the offer, and then the kind of credibility / kind of profile dialed in, what we now need to start doing is making people aware of you, okay? And the best way to do this for a long-term play is content, okay? So content doesn't have to be what it makes out online, okay? You do not need to be spending 10 or 20 hours a week doing content. You can be very creative with this. And this is more of a long-term play, but it's so powerful, okay? You can start getting results from posting content within days. When I started to post content properly, I had 2 calls booked within the first week of me doing it, okay? I was posting on LinkedIn for ages, inconsistently, not doing it correctly, not sure how to do it. And then once I changed up my strategy, instantaneously my impressions and everything started to go up. And I locked in my ICP, I really understood their pain, and then I took it over to the content. And this is where the magic can happen, okay? So content that sells for you, okay? This is the important part. Like I said, the offer is doing 80%, but the content is getting them to trust you because they now know you, okay? So prospects come in warm and they pre-qualify and already trusting you, like I just said. That is key, okay? And this is why I'm highlighting those key points. You want them warm and you want them trusting you. Now, they're strategic and not random. So you're not just posting content for the sake of it. You're not just posting like 20 days of their life or tips, okay? It needs to be dialed into your actual ICP's problem, okay? So, these are their pains, their objections, and their buying journey stages. Alongside that, you want to demonstrate your expertise. So position you as the authority in the niche. You are the expert. You are the best in this. You are the best at XYZ problem that you can solve for them, okay? And this compounds, like each piece is like a piece of history, okay? Someone can see this a month, 2 months, 3 months. When someone comes onto your page and they like a post, they start scrolling through your page and then they start liking it, or they may not engage with it, but they know who you are. So then you keep getting shown to that person, and eventually that person can be a client in a couple of months, okay? And inbound leads. So people come to you, not the other way around. That is the magic. Imagine that. You don't have to DM everyone all the time. You're getting leads that are coming to you. This is your profile. This is like your MySpace back in the day. This is all about who you are. And people are going to be coming And again, they like you, they know you, and they're booking on calls from your content, especially when you start to get this going over the next couple of months. And the higher quality calls as well. These aren't just random people that you DM that you have not that much information about. They've been following your journey. They understand where you've been and what pains you've had and how you've got to this desired outcome. So when they book in that call, the prospect said they'd already been looking at your content and they know who you are. You don't have to go into this very long. They feel like they trust you, they want to buy from you already, and then you just need to explain your offer and then get them on board, okay? Now, another really good thing about this as well is that part of content that a lot of people think they don't need to do is sharing their personal experience. So, some of my best posts are, basically nothing to do with my ICP, but I dial it always back into it. I'm talking about me as an entrepreneur and my journey and my struggles and what I've been doing, so that when someone actually looks at my content and they see the value, they now can actually have a picture of who I am as a person, as just Zach, not the business Zach, just my natural person, okay? And that allows me to feel like a real human rather than just this person trying to sell to them. And that is super, super powerful. So there's 3 types of content that we want to be posting, okay? And like I said, this is a long-term play and you don't expect to get content results in the first couple of days or even the first couple of weeks, but this will help your sales calls, but especially if you DM someone and then they go look at your profile and they see what you're talking about. It just resonates with them more, okay? There's 3 ways that we do this. So we want to build awareness, we want to build belief, and trust and urgency, okay? So let's start with the build awareness part of it, okay? So this is where someone is unaware completely of their problems and they're not aware of it at all, okay? They will want to be surfacing their challenges. They may deep down know a little bit about it, but they're not admitting it to themselves. So they're a bit resistant to it, okay? And these are crafted so that you can instantly relate and feel personally called out. So this is like when they hear it for the first time, they're like, wow, that is so me. I didn't realize that other people were like that. And that is a powerful kind of a way to get the content going here. And there's no selling at all involved, okay? You're not pitching, you're not doing a call to action. It's purely drawing attention to what's holding them back, okay? So this could be certain things talking about like my experience of why I was stuck not getting 5 to 10 sales calls. And I could be talking about all the AI automations that I was trying to use and never getting results. And then just be talking about all the issues I had and then how I fixed it, okay? And when someone reads that, they've seen these same problems as well. And they're probably in that exact same situation that you were in. And then you've talked about how to solve that. And then you've brought them, brought their trust in. And what this does is that they now trust you a little bit more, or they want to follow you or like you or engage or do whatever. And then they bring them into your kind of ecosystem, okay? Again, a lot of this is not to go like too technical in it, but this is just the overarching thing of what you should be focusing on. So the next type of content that we want to be creating is building the belief, okay? So this is where someone know their problems. So they understand that they're struggling or they understand what's going on, like they don't have enough time or yada yada, and they're unaware of the solution. So they get the problem and they're stuck here like, how the hell do I solve this problem? And these are perfect people, okay, when you're DMing them. So this instills confidence by showing that improvement can actually happen. So they actually can see the light at the end of the tunnel. These are the type of people where your product or your offer is like, wow, okay, I didn't realize that was a thing. And this shares your approach, experience, and perspective while giving clear next moves, okay? So you build authority because you've shown how you've been able to get over this problem and you've been able to show them the solution. So 1, they're like amazed because they now know that they can get it solved. And 2, your credibility's gone up massively because you're able to now become that expert in that field. And again, if you're messaging someone or if you're doing something in the future, someone that can come across this months down the line, this is powerful, okay? Because it doesn't have to just be like today they see it. It could be a month, 2 months, 3 months when they actually see this content. That's great. This is a key one, okay? And you want to be breaking the week down on these type of content. So you can do a really good call to action on these as well. You don't always have to do a call to action. It could just be like, if you want to hear more about how I did this, DM me, experience or whatever. And I'll talk to you about this. So if people want to go a deeper dive into this account, then what can actually happen is they can message you and you start having a conversation and you can find out what their problem actually is and then solve that problem, okay? And again, this is a really good way to build that trust and get the content going in. Now, the other one is trust and urgency, okay? So these are people that are aware of both their problem and the solution aware, okay? So they know exactly that the problem is XYZ, And they also are aware that there is a solution out there. What they're trying to do is pick the right solution for them. And these are fantastic people to be converting, okay? So this establishes credibility while nudging them to act now. So this could be like call to actions in your post, and alongside that, a really, really good way to do this is lead magnets, okay? So you could be doing lead magnets where you're filming yourself, talking about a certain part of your offer or a certain part of value that you give, and then getting people to either comment on that post or give their email to you in order to get that. So what you're getting here is people that they have the problem clearly, and they obviously want the solution to solve that. So these are perfect people where then you can start messaging them, having conversations and get them converted, okay? And it's a good way to show your credibility because you have this information that you can give to people. And if they don't buy now, they can buy in the future. So this highlights testimonials, case studies, and your success stories as well. So if you do have case studies or success stories from your past clients, this is where you can case study this. So I helped this client go from £5,000 a month to £20,000 a month in 30 days, and this is how. And you break down exactly how you did that process, holding away some of the nuggets. And then again, like you said, you put that end call to action so someone can get this result as well, okay? And this is fantastic. So with this one, okay, if you do not have any case studies or you're unaware of how you're going to get that result, let's say you just started your business, or you're a little bit nervous to share it, or you don't have the permission. One, blank out their details, so you're just showing how you did it, or use yourself as a case study. So show how you were able to get 5 to 10 sales calls a week from doing this process, or how you solved this problem and now this is what happened, okay? Don't be afraid to share your own success. People can still relate to that, okay? Sometimes people relate to that better than you showing all these other people, and sometimes they get a bit of fear in there. So if you can show what you did and where you were, this is just as powerful, okay? Now, what you want to be doing on this is you want to be posting every single day, okay? So you want to break it down from these ones. So you want to do at least 2 of the build awareness, 2 of the build beliefs, and then 1 of the trust and urgency, okay? You don't want to always be pitching your results and trying to do call to actions, because then you're starting to come off as a salesperson. You want to add with value. But you want to be doing this every single day. This can take an hour, okay? It does not need to take long. Once you get ChatGPT going, so you can get your ICP, put it into ChatGPT, you can get your offer, put it into ChatGPT, and what you can then do is say, I need to create 2, build awareness posts, I need to create 2 build belief posts, and I need to create 1 trust and urgency post, okay? And you can just bank this database. And once you start to get more content from your clients as well, like the exact words they're using, or find someone in the same industry that's doing something to you, see what they're saying, see what posts work for them, take that and then change that post into your own ICP and your thing. That's how you can get this working very quickly without being too over the top of it, okay? So content is so powerful. This is more of a long-term play, but this must be done, okay? This really, really does help you scale, and it builds the foundations for your business. So once we've got the content down, okay, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just start getting something going and then get it refined over the time. But again, if you follow that, you should have a really good foundation to get going. The next thing is my favorite thing, and this is starting to DM people, okay? And this is why I call it the DM sales system. Now, this is the quickest way that you're going to get wins, okay? The content, like I said, is a more of a play to get leads coming in over time. But this is something that you can do right now and start having conversations with your ICP and having sales calls very quickly. Now, there's an art to this. You can't just start sending messages to people, sound like a robot, and get on calls. Now, a lot of people are going to be open because if you have a problem or you have a solution to their problem, you can help solve them, okay? So how do we actually find leads? So you've got your ICP, you know exactly who that person is. So it could be you helping founders in the digital marketing space get more leads, okay? So what you want to then start doing is building a sales navigation list. So sales nav, I think it's, I don't know what the cost, I think it's about 60 or 50 quid or $80. And what you want to do is you go in here and you can build a full list of people that are into your ICP. So it could be founders, CEOs, directors who are in the digital marketing space or marketing space that have a company size of 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 or whatever it may be. I ignore the turnover part as well. And then what you could be doing in here is like excluding certain keywords and including keywords as well. And there's a lot more to it. But if you go into the sales now, there's YouTube videos that will explain exactly how to do this. You can get your dialed in ICP in here, okay? And once you have that, you can grab this list and you want to get this as narrow as possible down to like, a couple of thousand people, yeah? The shorter the better, because that means you've dialed it in. So keep dialing that in until you get that mark. You can take this into a software and start doing automated connection requests to these people, like 30 to 40 a day. And what this is going to start doing is getting connections in your ICP so you can start messaging them, okay? Now, you can get quick wins already from people that have viewed your profile. They've recently connected with you already, and they're like or commenting on your post. So again, you got the post coming in, that's the validity. Some people might start connecting with you. And it could be that people are engaging with similar content in your niche as well. And these are where you can find these people too. So once this has happened, as soon as they accept your connection request, fantastic, you can now message them. With the content rock and rolling, there's a lot of your kind of expertise being shown to them already, okay? Now, some of them will see them, some of them won't see that. But when you have the content posting, a lot of the time people will click on your profile and they will have a read about what you do. And this is why it's so important to have that profile dialed in, so you don't just look like this random person that doesn't look professional. You have a really clear profile so that you have a higher acceptance rate, okay? And if your acceptance rate is lower, it means that you haven't dialed in that profile enough. So go back, revert, get it sorted, and maybe you need to dial in that sales nav list as well, because it's not hitting your ICP exactly. So from here, you now got people that you can be DMing. Now, you already probably have connections on LinkedIn. You've probably been doing this for a while, and you haven't actually DM'd anyone. Great. You can go through your profile. If you go to your profile and it clicks on the connection part, you can start scrolling through and see when someone started to follow you. And people that have followed you for a while probably have seen your content if you were posting. And this is the people that you can start DMing while you're building up your connection requests as well, okay? And you want to be sending personalized first messages. No automations here, okay? Just automations to do connection requests. Now, in those automations, you can get them to view their profile and like their first post as well, which actually then gets them, when you see the connection request, they see that you've actually been engaging, so you don't see that robotic. So you want to keep this message super simple, okay? I can't stress this enough. You want to not copy and paste a pitch, and you want to personalize using their profile, achievement, or business context. Send 50 plus new DMs a week, okay? You can go more than that, but send a minimum of 50 a week. Now, you've all probably got messages. I know I have, and it's so robotic. You can tell when it's automated. Text messages are so obviously automated most of the time, okay? So if you send a voice message, this is such a higher conversion rate. It is something that's not common for people. If you want to go a next step forward and send a video message, that can really help, okay? But a quick win is just sending voice messages. It'll take you 30 minutes a day to bang out 10, okay? But make sure you're actually taking information off their profile so that you actually seem like a human rather than just a robot just trying to get sales, okay? So we want to make sure that we are praising, so we want to have a positive or negative question around their ICP, okay? So what that means, okay, is we're not just going in saying like, do you need help with sales? Or are your sales good? Or are your sales bad? We want to give them a positive position that they're in or a negative position that they're in. And the reason that we're doing that is that if you help people get more sales and they say, our revenue is amazing, we're smashing in sales, everything's going super well, they're probably not going to need your service, okay? Not to say they may not, but like they're probably not going to be fitting an ICP. But if they say negative remark, then we can go into question bases to find and qualify them and also sound like a human, okay? And this is important. Everyone else is doing automations and it's poo, okay? That's why I gave that poo emoji. We want to be the people that stand out, that they go, oh, this person actually sent me a voice message. So they're going to actually listen to that. And this is why it's very important that we dial this in correctly. So these are some examples, okay? So for example, let's say I go onto their post and I say, hey, this looks fun. Like, I saw that you're doing X, Y, Z. I saw the post, it's really incredible. I think the offer is really cool. That's the voice message. And then I can go, are you happy with the revenue target right now? Or do you have capacity to add more sales calls each month? So what I've done there is I've said, are you happy with the revenue? Great, you're doing well. Or do they have a capacity to add more sales calls each month? So they want more sales calls. So if, again, you're doing lead gen and you want to do get more sales calls, fantastic. It could be marketing saying, how's your marketing going right now? Are you getting a lot of inbound leads, or is sales not happening in the inbound area? Again, positive, negative. Another good one is team generating you solid leads each month, or still doing outreach yourself. So trying to fish to see if they're actually doing all the sales themselves, or if they're not doing it. So these are really good opening questions. Paired with a voice message, you're going to get a really good reply rate here and actually sound like a human. And they're going to be able to give you a problem straight away, and or like a pain, or they're going to be able to qualify themselves here. And this is fantastic because we can then keep the conversation moving, okay? So once they reply, we want to surface their frustration. So what we're doing here, we're finding the problem. You have a good idea of what their problem may be if they surface it, but you want to get them to actually state that problem. Because if you just tell them, they're going to say no because they know that you're trying to sell to them. So once you get them to actually voice that, it actually embarks a bit of emotion in them. They're doing a cry for help, really. So the question should hit them home and the desire that they want to fix. Okay, so this is super important. So great examples here. How are you finding managing sales alongside delivery right now? Okay. Another good one is, what's been the hardest part about keeping your pipeline full? So you can tailor this for your own industries. So what we're doing here is we're trying to find what is that problem of them not having leads, or what is that problem of them not solving the solution. Now, they're going to come back with this problem, okay? It's been hard because we don't have enough time getting leads. Fantastic. We can then solve that. So we know that there's something that we can help them with. Again, you're coming off like a human, you're having a conversation, you're not coming off like you're trying to sell them something or do you need help with this or XYZ. People just stop that, okay? People want to talk about themselves, they want to talk about their businesses. This is why we want to keep these conversations going. So this gets me seeing if they're qualified and think of your ICP most common pain, okay? That's really, really, really important. You want to build these questions around that ICP. So don't just start asking random questions. Again, this is a good ChatGPT job. Get into ChatGPT. You got the ICP, you got the offer, you got conversations, and ask it, what is their biggest pain? What is their biggest problem? Obviously, you got the data, and then this can help you build these questions and then test this and document what's working. And then you just start culling questions away if it's not working, okay? So we want them moved on. As soon as they answer this, unless they've screamed out their pain, we don't want to be offering a call. We want to get them talking about their vision, okay? Where they want to get to. So find out what they actually want here, okay? So these are the questions that get them talking about that desired goal, okay? So if problem area was completely handled, where would you put your focus in the business? So if they talked about, I don't know, let's say they don't have a pipeline or they are trying to generate a business themselves, if we're able to solve that pipeline, we're not saying that, but we're saying if that problem was completely handled, what would that allow you to do in your business? Talk to me about that. This is getting them to talk about, oh my God, I would have X, Y, Z, D. All this pleasure coming to their brain about that having been taken off their shoulders. And this is also another one, like how would things change if you were achieving extra X results every week? So what we're doing here is we're getting them to really talk about what they actually want. And this is important because we're taking them through the pain, the low, and the high. So this is like getting them feeling the pain, this emotional gut wrench, into the high where they actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? The more clear the numbers, the better blockers are highlighted, okay? So this is key. You want to make sure that this is dialed in, absolutely dialed in. This is where the data and the more people you're messaging will allow you to help with this. So then we want to highlight the blocker, get them to identify what's in their way. So again, we're basically taking them on a journey. We're not telling them the problem. We're getting them to tell us why they need the service that you offer. And that's so important because they are always feeling in control. The person that feels in control of the conversation, even though they're not technically because you're guiding them, allows them to be more open to a conversation, because if you come in and say, I can solve that, they've talked about their issue, they've talked about why they want to solve it, and they talked about the blocker in there. So they're opening themselves up for this call, which is great. So you're fishing for them to label the problem, like I said. What do you feel is holding you back from reaching X result right now? So this is a very normal, no pressure way of getting that person to get on a call to highlight their issue, okay? And this is where you're diagnosing the gap, rather than you assuming. Once you get on that call, and if they obviously get on that call, you have all the things that they need solving and what's their problem, and you need to come in now and give them that solution. This is why 80% of that can be solved before they even get on the call, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to transition to a call like a human. we want to have a conversation with them. We don't want to start pitching about how I can definitely help them, because you don't know you can definitely help them. They have a problem, but you still don't know all the details in there. You need to actually make sure that you can do this, okay? So you're curious to get the call to action, okay? You're framing this as like, I'm curious. You're not just going in like, I can definitely solve you that, because it's so frustrating when you get pitched where you're like, I can definitely do this, when your business is quite technical. For them to think that you can solve this in a quick amount of time, most founders are going to be like, sod off. I've heard this so many other times. So this is why you want to position it like this. I'd be curious to see if my systems and processes could help you achieve X while solving Y. So what you're doing here is you're basically saying, I want to see it, or I'm curious to see if I can actually help you achieve what you want to achieve and solve that problem that you just told me about. And then what you want to do is you want to follow with a no-orientated ask. Now, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, is an amazing book. People are more comfortable saying no. If you get this person saying no to you now, they're going to feel more comfortable saying no when you get them on the call, okay? And what that means is that when they are maybe not wanting to purchase, they already actively know that they can say no to you, so you can actually start selling to them properly. So this puts them in the driver's seat. They feel like they're in control. It's their decision rather than like a forced decision, okay? So would it be a bad idea to look to see if this could help work for your business? And they'll go, yeah, for sure. And then you send their calendar link and book them in. And they're going to be more likely to book if they give you a no, let's book on a call, then yes, let's book on a call. Because there's a thing called a false yes, where someone just says yes to just get you off their back. Because people don't want to say no. It's a really weird human phenomenon. But this really does help you get that conversion, okay? So what we're talking about here is converting by just sending messages, but we want to maximize that, okay? Because if we get that going, the system's going to be working because we can do less, but get more. So then if we can multiply this and we got the good results from actually doing the DMs properly, this is how we scale massively, because you can just keep multiplying and keep multiplying and keep multiplying it. And this is powerful because these systems we're talking about, it doesn't just have to be you, the founder, using it. Your team can start using it. And that is when you can just start to multiply the output, which is incredible. Now, my quick tips with these DMs, okay? Because people here are probably going like, oh, how can this be 5 hours? Well, you can do this in not long every single day. If you initially spent an hour a day doing this, you can easily do that. Your first 30 minutes of the day, outreach to everyone. Then in the middle of the day, respond to people for 10 to 15 minutes. And at the end of the day, make sure that you respond to people again for 10 to 15 minutes. And that takes you a total of 5 hours a week to do that, okay? And it could take a little bit longer initially if you want to do more. That's absolutely fine, The more you do, the better. But what we want to get this dialed into is doing less. But if you structure this, it actually shouldn't be sporadic. If you're trying to reply to someone in the middle of your day and trying to then respond to someone at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that you're then actually compromising your work quality and you're not doing it properly. If you just block it, you're going to get better results because you're actually going to actively think about messaging rather than just doing it sporadically. And this is where you can get higher conversion as well, okay? So now we've got the DMs, okay? What we want to start to do now is we want to dial this in even more. We want to get the system working. We want to get that chip, that computer running like a smooth oiled machine to actually make this 5 hours or less a week, okay? So we want to document, we want to hire, we want to refine everything that we're doing. Everything that's working is IP. Everything that's not working is IP as well. So this is where we talked about at the start. If you're not actually documenting what's working, don't have the SOPs, don't see what questions are working, don't see what content's working, unfortunately, you don't have a system. You just have a process that you're just trying to do every single day. But then this can't be replicated for someone else to do. And that means you're stuck into this every single day. We want you out of this as soon as possible so that you can focus on growing your business, doing the strategy, work with your clients, and actually growing faster than you ever thought was possible. So why setters must exist in this system? The reason why is because you want to do this for a period of time, and then at the end of this can be handed off to someone else. It's your lowest priority job to be doing this because someone else can do it, okay? And it takes your time away. So what we want to do is we want to get you out of it because you're the bottleneck. Have you ever thought about someone else can do this better than you? Because if you're doing A, Y, Z, D, F, everything, I don't know why I did A, Y, Z, D, F, but if you're doing everything, then you're doing a bit of something, and that's not good. We want someone dialed in doing this 100%, doing all the follow-ups, engaging, doing it much quicker than you, and this is going to be a massive improvement to your business. So appointment setters handle the outreach, the follow-ups, and the first conversations. And they can do this more than you. If you're doing 50, get them to do 100. They can be really ramping this up and really helping get the business going from, that second or third gear that we got you to that fifth or sixth gear and scale the revenue massively. And then the founders focus on delivery and closing instead of grinding in the DMs. So you just have appointments onto your calendar. You don't even know who these people are. You have an appointment setter that hands you the notes and everything of what they've been doing, especially you've got a form, and then you're actually closing them, okay? So that's the joyful part. You get them into the business, you focus on their kind of delivery and scalability, and then bang, appointments on your calendar. Amazing. And then setters are doubling that output and keep the calendar full of qualified leads. So it's not to reduce it, it's to get you from 5 calls to that 10 calls because now they're doubling that output. And founders go back to scaling and fly past revenue targets, okay? Because now you have a system that can be multiplied. You have another setter and another setter and another setter, and then eventually you get a closer in here. And then you're completely out of that sales process because you're just doing big growth and revenue things. And this is where you actually then have a business that you can be scaling up, okay? So let's talk about the setup process, okay? So setters plug straight into SOPs, outreach and frameworks, and playbooks, okay? There's no trial and error. You've literally got the written formula. You did this yourself. You're just documenting everything that you did that worked and everything that didn't work, and then you handing them an SOP, and then bang, they just plug into this and follow it, and then keep rinsing and repeating it and doing it better. And then what that setter does is that they log what's working for them and what's not working for them, and then you're working with them to get even better. And then happy days. All you do is spend an hour with them every single week, or maybe a little bit longer, depending on your goals. And all you're doing is refining and helping them scale rather than doing all the work, okay? And obviously then you have calls in your calendar. So you equip them with scripts, templates, and strategies that are already tested, like I just said. They've ramped up already because you can support them by structured training, so results are within weeks, not months. Because you know exactly what works, you're not trying to get them to invent the wheel. You just say, do this, and then they go and do that, okay? And that's fantastic. You have something that's repeatable and simple, which is then scalable. And that's exactly what we want with this system, okay? And then they're creating consistent momentum, ensuring that the calendar stays full and frees you completely from daily outreach. You are just growing your business. You're the CEO of your business. You're not a salesperson anymore. And you've got the 5 to 10 qualified sales calls that you're closing, whatever percentage of. And then again, because you have more data, you can then keep refining that offer and increase that closing rate. And this is where it's a constant machine. Everything gets better and better and better as it keeps going on, okay? So let's talk about optimizing the seller, okay? Because it's not just simple as them putting into the SEOPs and then making sure that they do it. We want to make sure that they're actually getting the best out of this. And this is this is kind of what we need to be tracking. So these are the lead indicators that you want to be tracking, and even tracking before when you're doing it, okay? So you want to track the response rate percentage from DMs. So how many people, so let's say you send 50 DMs, how many of them have actually responded to that first message? Even if it's a no, even if it's a yes, whatever, we want to track it because that may, people are actually looking at that content, which is a positive sign, and also the messages. So the positive reply rate as well. So what we want to make sure is track if we're getting like a response to the question or if we're getting them to continue the conversation. We want to track that rather than just the no's, because if we're getting 30 no's, then that message is probably not correct. If we're getting, from 50, we're getting 25 positive ones, then fantastic. We know that message is dialed in, so we want to keep using that and then put that into the SOP. So this is where the data is really important. And it's the number of appointments booked per batch of outreach as well. If you're not doing this correctly, the issue that you'll have is that what's going to end up happening is you're going to maybe track that you're getting good responses, but if no one's booking in, it means that the ICP is not dialed in. And that means that you're just talking to the wrong people. And that's not where you want to be, okay? That's not a good position to be in. So there are things that you can see kind of instantaneously, but then what we have is the lagging indicators, okay? So these are like show up rates booked to booked calls, conversion rate from calls to client, and average deal value of set booked appointments. So what we're doing here is this is going to come after the deal has been closed or after the conversation has been happening with the appointment setup. This is again to see if that person is dialed into the ICP, because if we know we've got a good show-up rate to book calls, we're booking the right people. If we've got a good conversion rate from call to client, then again, we've got the right ICP. And if the average deal value of the set of booked appointments is high, then we're dialed in, okay? So what we want to make sure is we want to then look at what the list or the messages or everything that appointment setter is doing and that you were doing. And again, we want to document that because that's exactly what we want to keep going to. Alongside that, we want to make sure that we're tracking when you're on that call, you're seeing what words you're using that's closing, because then what you can do is take that back to the appointment setter or to yourself doing the DMs, and then actually keep speaking that language in the DMs, in the pitch, everything, in the content. So this starts to trickle back, okay? The more calls we get, the more we can dial in all the content as well. And this is why that system just keeps getting better. It's like software updates constantly every single week, okay? So we want the message testing as well. So we want to A/B test. So like I said, once we see these conversion rates going up or going down, we want to start looking at new things. So test different open styles. So short text, voice note, pattern interrupt. It could also be a video message. Alongside that, we're going to rotate qualification questions to see which generate better responses. So rather than those opening messages being a templated one, what you can then do is just start to change and rotate what's actually working. And again, see the response rate and conversion rate, track that separately on a scorecard, and you'll be able to see what's actually getting a better result. And obviously, what you're doing here with an appointment setter in your account, they can't send voice messages, so the text message is going to be important. But there's no reason why you as the founder can't keep sending voice messages every single morning for 20 minutes, initially, and then you get yourself out. Because if that's all you're doing, that's fantastic. It's great use of your time, especially if it's going to get you 10, 15, 20 grand a month, okay? So We want to do a call feedback loops as well. So analyze the book calls every week, which objections are coming up, and feed those objections to those DM scripts and content so prospects are pre-handled earlier. Like we talked about, okay? We want to dial in on that questionnaire, and we want to dial in all those, everything. Everything is just a constant like fuel machine just going into it, okay? And we want to measure how long it takes from the first DM to book a call. This is really important as well, because if we are seeing a appointment setter or yourself, do 20 questions or taking 2 weeks to book on a call, you're probably having a conversation with them rather than going through that framework that we went through. So make sure to go back to that. But also, if it is consistent, we are following that pipeline and that process, then we want to look to refine it, because we may need to add a step in there, because if it's constantly happening and we're trying to jump too far ahead, then we need to refine that. And every industry is different, but that framework does work quite well, okay? And then just follow-up candidates to shorten time frames, so quicker nudges, voice notes, reminders. So what this means is that you don't just send a message once, you want to have reminders. You want to be following up with someone every 24 hours, okay? And that's key. So if you send a message and they don't respond, give them a quick little nudge, just nudging above. Same with if you offer a call, you want to be on top of that, okay? They want to be making sure that person gets onto that call rather than that floating away, because that person is obviously shown their problems. They want an outcome, and we need to give that. So we want to make sure that we're following up. Don't want to follow up too many times, probably about 3 or 4. But if you're doing it slower, like it's taking a day to do it, which it shouldn't with a setter, then you may want to refine that down, and you want to test that, okay? You want to see if that's working. Like I said, you want to log every no or every stall, adjust the script weekly, even in the DMs, okay? So you can review this once a week, once a month, and see why a conversation stalled. What questions did I ask? What could I have done differently? Test that difference on another person and document that. Keeps going. It's just a constant oil machine, okay? And we want to share the insights with content strategy, so posts and DMs speak to the same language. So all the successes, we go straight into the content. All of the things that have been making people go cold, we want to take that out of the content. So you can just have a ChatGPT that's constantly just learning. You just keep feeding it, so it just knows exactly what you should be posting, okay? And this is why it just piles together, and after a couple of months, it just full steam ahead with every angle just working really well for you. So this is why that 5-hour system works completely, okay? So setters remove the founder completely from the bottleneck, handle outreach, follow-ups, and first conversations completely taken away, keep calendars full of qualified calls without you having to do anything, proven SOPs make results repeatable and scalable. So when you hire someone in, it's not like, what the hell do I do? They exactly know what you need to be doing, or they need to be doing, and then you just rinse and repeat this constantly, okay? So you can continue to scale this. And founders are focused on just closing and scaling past revenue targets. All you have to do is close the deals and then keep scaling, putting all these new things that you wanted to do, all these new opportunities, all these new offers that you couldn't do because you were doing so much at once. And like I said, the cash is the 5 to 10 additional sales calls every week without lifting a finger. That is the dream. That's the 5-hour sales system that can work for you, okay? Where you're doing little to no work every single day, gets you scaling past revenue that you thought was even possible in a very quick time. So now that we've got the ICP, we've got the offer dialed in, we've got a content strategy in place, we've got the DMs working for us, and now we've hired an appointment setter to take over the DMs for us. What we are seeing is a massive change in our business, okay? So if we come over to here and show what we looked at before compared to after this system. So before we have this system, you're not building a system, you're just a salesman, basically. Leads are cold and trust isn't built yet, and content isn't focused. So basically at the end of the, every time you're trying to do DM, no one trusts you at this point, not good. Trying every strategy and system and getting little to no results. I've been there, it's not fun. The ICP is not clearly defined, so you're speaking to everyone and no one. Again, it's a brutal world to be in. Offer not fully locked in and not doing the heavy lifting for you. You're kind of just doing offers and it's not really feeling like anyone's actually buying. DMs are sporadic, inconsistent, and completely robotic. Scaling means longer hours, not better systems. You become a bottleneck, not where you want to be. A founder juggling outreach, follow-ups, and every sales task alone. You're getting sucked into this, and basically everything's getting done 10 to 15%, and the business just stalls, or things start to break, okay? The calendar's unpredictable, revenue's unpredictable, and some weeks are more busier and others totally dry. You go up to 10 grand, you go back down to 5 grand, and you float around the 3 to 2 grand mark and never push past 20, 15 grand, okay? And you're just on this rinse and repeat cycle where you think you're doing well, and then it goes back down because you don't have a system. And every sales call feels like starting from zero with cold prospects. That's that old system and old way that a lot of founders are in, okay? Once you put this new system in place, you are able to rapidly change your business in a quick succession, okay? So your founders start to spend less than 5 hours a week on sales, okay? And this takes about 90 days to get really dialed in to spend less than 5 hours. It could even be quicker, okay? Appointment setters run for the systems, outreach follow-ups, and first conversations done for you. You don't have to do that. Someone else is doing that for you. How amazing is that? Someone else is getting you revenue into your business. No longer you are the bottleneck for revenue. Leads come in warm from content that already builds trust and authority. So people know who you are. You're actually suddenly inbound leads coming to you. And also when you're doing outreach, people understand what you offer. It's black and white. They get it, okay? And when they actually go and explore your page, they're starting to get value from that content. And that is a long-term play, but it can really compound very quickly. The ICP is locked in. So sellers only speak to qualified prospects, not wasting time. You're never getting on calls with people that you don't want to speak to. And that's super important. You don't want to actually speak to someone that is not a qualified lead, okay? Alongside that, your offer is positioned so it does 80% of the selling before founders show up. That's key. Your offer is dialed in completely. So it's actually being able to dial in their sales and not just feel like a forced kind of sale, okay? Pipeline delivers 20 to 40 qualified calls each month like clockwork. You have a repeatable system that can continue to get you leads, so you can continue to keep adding revenue every single month rather than going up and down. Sales calls feel natural, objections handled before prospects even arrive. So you have 20% focus on the close. It feels like you're just nudging them forward rather than trying to do all these hard sales approaches that no one likes. And the system compounds over time. Content plus set, it keeps filling the calendar. It just keeps getting better and better and better. It's not something that just gets dries up. This only gets more scaling, okay? Because you just keep repeating, you keep feeding it back, you keep going, you keep feeding it back and keep going. That is a beautiful, repeatable system. And scaling means better systems, not longer hours. The founder is no longer the bottleneck. It's what every business owner wants. They want to be able to go on holiday, be able to make money, and not feel like they have to be working 24/7 because you need some time to reset so you can get creative and scale. And founders focus on closing, delivery, and scaling. Revenue climbs past old ceilings. You are becoming the CEO of your own business that gets you from A to B to then all the way to Z to your target, okay? And that, again, is where we want to be. So the question that I get a lot is like, how long does this actually take? Well, look, I wanted to break down the actual time frames that you can see from actual real results of when you can look to get certain things and what to expect, okay? So the first 4 weeks, okay, is your foundation phase, basically. This is the strategic framework establishing the base on your actual business and ICP, the content calendar plan around prospects, real point, and buying journey. And initial appointments start to come in as well. And this is fantastic. You start to get booked calls, getting the IP and data in there. And SOPs are built out for scaling and removing you from the inbox. So in that first 4 weeks, you may get a couple of bookings in the first couple of weeks. It's very common. And what ends up happening is the content starts to ramp up, but also your DMs get better because you're dialed in. And if you're doing 50 a day, you can easily get, by the end of that first month, 3 to 4 to 5 calls booked every single week, okay? Then what we want to really start to push across is then focus on the content recognition as well. So we get the prospect saying, I've seen your post when booking. And this is fantastic. So the content's even more data because you've got more data going in there. So you have 5 to 10 qualified appointments per week, becoming consistent rather than sporadic. So it starts to become a more consistent approach after that, I would say, 2-month mark. And this is the point in which you want to hire an appointment setter. A lot of people I have hire appointment setter from day one. Some hire from month one. Some hire within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It really depends on the volume and how busy you are. But this is where you want to get an appointment setter hired and removing all that sales process. So that's 5-hour sales week becomes the full play. This is when it's fully in motion. And then you have a system that's running without you every single day, okay? You can take time off without sales and stopping, and that's key. So your focus is on the content, which can take an hour a week, and then also just working with the appointment setter to define that. And then all the other time is on closing and then obviously delivering and scaling your business, okay? And your shot rates improve because the prospects are pre-qualified and warm through the content. So this is the power of that content. It starts just to you just see it go like this, okay? You can see really quick results, and then it just starts to scale in that month to 2 to 3. And then pipeline starts to feel predictable instead of feast or famine cycles. So in that first couple of weeks, it may feel like it's a little bit up and down as the content and as the DM strategy gets working. But then from here, it's just a consistent beast, okay? You keep up the processes, you have the appointment setter doing all the work, you've got the content going, then you have the appointment setter engaging with other prospects and DMing people and starting conversations. It just is it's a vicious cycle of that. You start to get inbound and also outbound working perfectly without any ads or anything, okay? And then you also have that pitch refined with real ICP data and prices increase as we know where the value stack is. So once you have the value rocking, you know that you can increase your price. And alongside that, you have all the data to back it, so you can start refining that offer like we talked about to really speak to the ICP, and then everything backdated gets better as well because of the messages, the content, all of it, okay? And this is powerful. And then we hit the scale phase. So that month 4 to 6. So this is where 20 plus qualified appointments per month consistently are there without grinding in the DMs. So your appointment set is still going to be doing a lot of DM setting, but what you're going to get is a lot of inbound people messaging you as okay. So you're going to get people messaging, how do you do this, or XYZ, or commenting on posts. And now the appointment says connecting with them and outreaching with them as well to make sure that that pipeline keeps going. So the appointment setter's job shifts a little bit to actually getting people to, or replying to people rather than him starting the conversations. But he still can do that as well. So this is where it just compounds massively. And conversation rates improve because prospects arrive pre-sold through your content. They're already reaching out to you for help. They're basically crying. And then you're getting on a call and closing them. And content has built enough authority that inbound inquiries start happening consistently. Like I said there, you're just going to get people messaging you or booking straight onto your calendar from the call link in your profile, which is powerful. So what does this actually enable? Well, basically, you can go on holiday. Business trips and holidays without revenue stopping. You actually can have a life. You don't have to just sit at your computer constantly trying to do the sales process. And capacity for larger deals that require founder attention and expertise, you can start doing that. Think about that offer. Think about that strategy. Maybe even think about that other business eventually. Now, I wouldn't jump to another business, but this is where you can start being creative because you're not just stuck just doing all the admin or all the day-to-day stuff. You can actually be creative, be that CEO. And you can focus on delivery excellence instead of constant prospecting stress. Your services get better. You can start dialing in and getting you out of actual deliverability. So you start hiring someone here. And then when that ends again, you have a CEO hat on or to get to that board of director. So you can really increase the revenue because you can do strategic partnerships, bigger deals like we talked about, and really start getting the big money. And then break out financials. You can hit financial things that you thought weren't possible. You have that limited belief where you want to hit 10 grand, then you get to 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. There's no limit to this because it's a repeatable system that can be mimicked by multiple different people and then take it to another business and go and keep going, okay? And this is why this system works so well. It is a repeatable system that takes 5 hours, and once you get it up and running, it doesn't take up any of your time, and it's not sexy, it just works. And that's what a system should be like. It doesn't have to be creative, it doesn't have to be crazy, it just works. The 5-hour sales system works. The framework is technically proven. The difference between understanding it and technically implementing it while running your business is massively different. So if you can see the value of this system and want an additional 5 to 10 qualified leads every single week, without the trial and error learning curves, we provide the complete implementation alongside the appointment setters as well. There's going to be a link in my description for you to book a call with myself or my team to show you how this can work for your business as well. This system works when your implementation is done systematically. Most founders know exactly what they need to do, but struggle with consistent execution. This is all made harder because they're wearing every hat in their business. And this is something that we solve.